Okay, picking up where we left off on page 269, we're talking about adding a peripheral card or an adapter card. They go by different titles. Typically, just called by what they are. You know, a sound card, a video card. You know, people don't say a video adapter card. You know, they just say video card because we kind of know what they're talking about. Okay, so some sort of peripheral adapter card. And the way it's supposed to work on modern systems is you plug the device in. Well, first of all, you turn your machine off, plug the device in and turn it back on, and in most cases the machine will detect this new device, figure out that it's new, and then say, hang on a second, let me install the drivers for that for you. And he may say, you know, insert the CD-ROM that came with it, or it may go up to the internet and get it, whatever, and then it'll pull down whatever it needs and and then poof, your new device, whatever it is now fully operational. So there's a thing called plug and play, and what that's designed is every card manufacturer has been assigned a code, and so when you plug a card in, your machine knows what that is, what the manufacturer is, knows a little bit about it. So if it had to go to the web to pull information down, well, it knows the device ID, and if you pull down the wrong driver by accident, and it'll say, nah, I'm sorry, that doesn't match my device. So manufacturers have been given these codes to use to make it easier for devices to discover themselves and to figure out what software that they need. Okay, so when it comes to laptops, well, there's hardly much of a need. Yes, there are some super duper high-end laptops that actually have graphics cards that you can plug in. Okay, those are very rare and very expensive. You know, several $1,000 laptops that allow you to replace video cards and things of that nature. Most of them, all they have is like USB ports. And there was another technology which, for a full-blown laptop, I'm not talking about a netbook or tablet, you know, but one where size is not really an issue. Size does matter. They had this thing called an Express Bus, and it would allow you to plug practically anything into it, and it looked like a little credit card, and just fit into this little slot. Pretty cool. All right. And now, if you just go to the store and say, I'd like a video card, please, they're going to say, oh, well, do you need this video card for this particular processing bus, or do you need for this particular processing bus? You go, well, I don't know. So you kind of starting to know a little bit about processing buses. And so what happens is the machine has several ways to talk to itself. It can talk to its own kin. Okay, it can talk to memory and things like that, and it's called the front side bus. So the processor talking to memory and a few of its close friends. The back side bus is the CPU is talking to other peripheral devices like hard drives and things of that nature, which are considerably slower, right? And then you have the expansion bus. And so even though I might have a processor, let's say I have two computers side by side, and one has a 1.2 gigahertz processor, another one has a 2.4 gigahertz processor. The processors are running at twice the speed of the other one, right? But the expansion bus, where I go buy the card and plug it in, it has to be running at the same speed, because, you know, when you go buy a video card, it's going to have to know, hey, here's how fast this thing runs. Otherwise, I'd never be able to build a video card because I would not have a clue how fast you were trying to run it. So front side bus and all those things are kind of sort of dependent on the CPU, but the expansion is always dependent on the motherboard. So whatever the motherboard says, that's what the expansion bus is going to run at. So once again, I'm going to buy a graphics card, and the salesman's going to say, well, do you need a PCI, 8-lane PCI bus graphics card? And I'm going to say, I don't know, I got a brand X motherboard. And he's going to look it up in the computer and say, yes, this is the part you need. Okay. So you need to know just a tiny bit about what those computer buses are particularly the expansion bus. Okay. So PCI Express is probably the one that's big time nowadays, and it has different lanes. You can have a communication that takes up one lane, like a USB port expansion card, probably one lane. maybe 4 lanes for something like a hard drive, and then maybe 8 lanes for a graphics card that takes up lots and lots of bandwidth, shoving things back and forth. Okay, so now we're going to change the subject and talk about power supplies. So on 271, your system has to have power to run, and you talk about light bulb, right? 100-watt light bulb, and you just plug it in and it works, right? No big deal. Well, for the machine to work, it has to convert line voltage down to 12 volts and 5 volts. And we're talking about direct current. So there's an awful lot involved in taking 120 volt alternating current and cutting it down to 12 volt and 5 volt direct current. And it's not all that efficient. And so these power supplies are physically kind of large. I mean, they're big, and they produce a little bit of heat, and so there's typically a fan on them that blows them out. And whenever if the load on your machine was always constant, you could kind of dial in the specifications on the power supply to provide precisely that. But that's not the way it works. I mean, you turn more things on, and the power goes up, and power goes down. Power goes up, power goes down. The requirement for power. And so these things have to be able to respond rather quickly, and it has to be clean and neat. So power supplies are very important. If you have a laptop, it's probably a thing, I call it a brick, right? You got a power cord coming out, and you got this brick thing. Then coming out of the brick is a cable plugs into your laptop, and that's where that takes place. On a traditional computer, it's going to be this big box that's going to do all that stuff for you. Okay, so you need a power supply, a power adapter, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, and of course, in a laptop world, you're also going to have the battery, right? So that's kind of obvious. Let's talk about hardware maintenance for just a second. So there's some kind of tips here, and let's kind of go over them. They talk about, if you have a screen, so a laptop screen or a monitor, desktop monitor, and you really need to kind of keep it clean, right? They do not recommend you spray any type of liquid whatsoever on these surfaces, typically. Typically, you want one of those anti-static, like microfiber, towels, right? Now, if you got spilled Coca-Cola on it or something, you might want to spray onto the towel maybe, and gently kind of go over. So you're supposed to kind of clean these surfaces, but not spraying directly on them. Okay. Talk about using compressed air. So let's say I've got a keyboard, and there's a lot of places where you can trap dirt and grime, and so if your keyboard's getting kind of sticky, you might want to take one of those cans of compressed air and spray it all out. The problem I have with cats is I have an optical mouse, just a plain old everyday optical mouse, but I'll get cat hairs kind of stuck in it, and so I have to take my mouse, turn it upside down, and pull the cat hairs out of a little hole where the little LED laser is to get my mice to work right. So I have to clean my keyboard and clean my mice from time to time. The fans on your computer can get absolutely filthy, particularly if you have a computer that's sitting on the floor, sucking in cold air to keep it kind of cool. It can be just absolutely caked with dirt. I mean, I saw a machine come back from a warehouse scenario, and it was unrecognizable. I mean, seriously, you could not tell the parts. When you opened the cover up and went, wow. I mean, I just had no choice but to just hose it all down with compressed air. So I'm talking about CD-ROM. Somebody gives you a CD-ROM. I'm not necessarily just going to take it and throw it into my machine. I'm going to take a peek at it. Kind of hold it at an angle, kind of look at it, make sure if it's got goop on it. I'm going to kind of clean it down because once you get goop inside of one of those suckers, it's difficult to get the goop out. And same thing with simple things like, somebody gives you a flash drive. I kind of look at the end of it, maybe wipe it off with my thumb a little bit, maybe to get it. Because I don't want to, once again, once you get one of those connectors gooped up, then you're in there with alcohol and Q-tips and flashlights, and it's a mess. So these cleaning tips are actually pretty cool. Okay, let's go over the summary really quick. Make sure we got everything. It talks about various components inside the computer. Yeah, types of process steps in a machine cycle. We didn't do that part. Process and cooling methods. Yep, we did that. Advantages and services of cloud computing. Yeah, that's pretty cool. How memory stores data and describes the various types of memory, adapters, buses, power supplies, and ways to take care of computers and mobile devices. Okay, I think we got that one nailed. Alright, this is the end of the chapter. We'll see you guys again in some future chapter.